We talked about the ideal candidate 5 years ago and now, and the competitive advantage of speed and so on, but all the digital improvements, all the smart factory initiatives should be part of the strategy. We cannot, say that let's buy some shiny AI tool and everything will be okay. Far from that. Transformation is happening with the technology, but also with people, because technology is as good as the people that are working with that.
Welcome everyone to one of our podcasts, and today I would like to present Evelina. But before we jump in, today we will be talking about how the market is changing, what's the strategy within talent perspective within the companies and different industries. Evelina, thank you for coming. I actually checked before coming to this podcast how long we know each other, and guess.
2-3 years?
Yeah, it's around 3 years.
3 years, yeah.
I checked that around this time of the year, 3 years ago, I wrote the first email to you, and I would like to know about what's happening within your company. But before that, I would like for the everyone who's watching this video, for them to know who are you, what are you representing, and what is your role.
Okay, so let's start from introducing myself. As you mentioned, my name is Evelina Markauska, and I've been with Thermo Fisher Scientific for more than 13 years. I'm based in Vilnius, Lithuania, Thermo Fisher Scientific Baltics, but working for the whole world. In these 13 years, I changed my roles quite a bit from scientist, and for the past decade, I've been working with process improvement and business excellence. For the last 4 years, I was leading business excellence in Vilnius site, and Thermo Fisher Vilnius is one of the biggest manufacturing sites in Thermo, 1,500 people on the corner of Vilnius, and we are a scientific company serving science. Just recently, I got the role of divisional director for operational excellence. Always thank you. And now overseeing more than 10 sites all across the world. Now my responsibilities are not only business excellence, but also kind of combining improvements, technology, innovation, and everything else. So the digital improvements and smart factory is really close to my heart and close to my responsibilities. So yeah, Thermo Fisher is a big company, 125,000 people all across the world in around 50 countries. And as I said, Vilnius site is one of the biggest.
And for someone unfamiliar with your industry, could you maybe expand a little bit about what's the landscape right now and what are the biggest shifts that are happening there?
Yeah, so Thermo Fisher Scientific is a biotech company. We, as I said, scientific company serving science. We have a mission that I'm really proud of, enable our customers to make the world healthier, cleaner, and safer. So we have very broad portfolio. In the whole company, we have more than 1 million products, more than 12,000 here in Vilnius itself. So we are serving science from the very beginning, from the research to analytics to diagnostics to the very end of large-scale manufacturing. And one of the shifts that is happening now is customers want everything faster. They want faster solutions. They want new products faster. They want new scientific approaches, and the research should be done so fast, not in years that it used to be, but in really months. So for this, combining continuous improvement that I'm responsible for with smart factory or all the digital solutions really makes sense, really ties up very well, because for example, for clinical research or new product development, we can use AI and data analytics to really advance the research much more. Another shift is happening in all across the industry is digital transformation. And digital transformation in manufacturing facilities, in research that I mentioned. Manufacturing facilities are getting smarter, and we need very good integration of all the machines, equipment, and data and so on. So once again, smarter solutions are really needed here. One more thing that is really changing now from the technology perspective, and from probably in most industries, but in biotech really, is the need for upskilling. And uh, people need to be open for self-development because the technology is moving so fast. We cannot hire as fast as the technologies are moving, and classical education systems cannot prepare people so fast. So we need to really upskill people so much faster. So digital upskilling, workforce transformation is really the major shift that is happening.
2 years ago, it was the first time I went to your Vilnius branch office, and I really seen myself how you're investing in data and how you're data driven. And I remember a couple of times I heard about your smart factory strategy. Maybe you could provide what's the definition behind, and what are the goals from the perspective of what smart factory is.
Yeah, so Vilnius site is really advanced in continuous improvement and operational excellence, and we've been doing that for probably 15 years now, and we improved so much. We improved many things, did kaizens and all the improvement projects, but eventually for the bigger uh, maybe a breakthrough, you need some smarter solutions. And the key here, and I want to highlight this, that we shouldn't automate waste. And this is the strategy that we're having: lean first, automate later. So we can improve a lot with simple solutions. And for the next step, for the, as I said, breakthrough, we are applying smarter solutions. And we call the strategy Smart Factory because, as I said, Industry 4, Industry 5, Industry 6 is changing every couple of years. So we call it Smart Factory. And nevertheless, we are not only manufacturing site, we also have all the support functions, R&D, and so on. So Smart Factory for us is really about digital and physical automation, about data integration, about data analytics and integration of all the systems all together. We pay a lot of attention to the digital upskilling, and this was one of my, not was, is one of my passions and one of my responsibilities as well. So digital upskilling, really empowering people to to improve the things for themselves. Because I probably don't know a company that have enough IT resources, and to wait in the long queues of IT, tickets. It's not always the best way to go. So we are really trying to train our people to do some small improvements themselves. So it's a big kind of big concept, really aligned with the continuous improvement methodology.
And I'm super happy to hear that Thermo Fisher is investing a lot in internal upskilling, and maybe you as a leader could give the difference between what was a talent, like an ideal team member 3 years ago, and what is the shift that you're seeing that needs to be now. So, for example, what's the difference between ideal team member today and what was yesterday?
Yeah. So I think back in the day, like 3, 5, 7 years ago, the ideal candidate for a job was the one that was expert in their field. Uh, Usually, individual contributor, really, experts, and I think now it's shifting more towards having the growth mindset, having ability to collaborate, because problems used to be solved by the managers and supervisors. Now we have the really collaborative problem solving. We have interfunctional problem solving, and that collaborative mind should be really a soft skill that is really necessary for the new candidates. Growth mindset, as I mentioned, and people should be eager to learn new things. And nowadays, you really need to adapt. You really need to uh, be able to connect the dots between the data and for us with the science, with the experiments and so on and so far. So being able to work with a broad set of tools and being able to learn these new tools.
And what is the decision making behind where should the company's upskilling efforts go? How are you deciding and who is behind all of this to understand where the market is going and how you should be up on the top of it?
Yeah. So another thing, I mentioned this already, is the strategy. Another thing is really, really important, just for the companies to know where they are, where they want to be, where they need to be in a couple of years, and then make a plan how to achieve that. And strategy deployment is really strong in our site, and upskilling and personal development is really tied to the strategy, because we know that digital technologies is it's the future, and so we cannot expect to be competitive without doing something smarter. So therefore, we are investing time and money into digital upskilling because it's really part of our strategy.
And can you walk us through a specific challenge your team faced that you tried to solve through upskilling?
So as I already mentioned that there's never enough IT resources. And it's really the challenge that probably every company is facing, unless maybe some startups have enough or so,
Not
but
really.
not really.
Not really.
But classical companies, especially corporates, it's always the challenge. And now with more physical automation, machines and equipment generating more data, we need to collect the data to analyze, to make a decision based on that. And for this, we need people that understands data so much more. So that was the main reason why we invested time into digital upskilling.
Have you seen any changes when you invested in internal upskilling, for example, in data, or like as you mentioned, a lot of resources were spent on digital upskilling, but data and AI is definitely the secret sauce for every company to be on top of it. Have you seen like very tangible change within your internal teams when they went through programs?
Yeah, I got some surprises because people became really creative, and it's probably pretty challenging to build a plan of all the small improvements from the top. So people really need to do the bottom up uh, improvements, and I've seen many interesting dashboards or some automation solutions and so on. And what is really inspiring, that those close to 100 people that completed Turing college modules, they are now go-to people in every department for the data-related projects, questions, and usually they are kind of right hand for the supervisors and managers to analyze data, to prepare better reporting, to make better decisions. I cannot disclose certain numbers probably, but as I said, the main changes, the main improvements were related to the reporting, to the decision making, to the improvements. Even as I said, we've been doing continuous improvement for 15 years now, and when we started to work more with data analytics, we kind of started to dive deeper into Lean Six Sigma as well, with a deep dive statistical analysis and so on. But for this, you need clean data, you need people that understands data as well. So we are really combining of these things. As I said, continuous improvement, Six Sigma, digital upskilling, AI, and everything. So it's really becoming one system. It's not something additional that we are doing on top. It's really part of everybody's work.
I really liked when we started working, as you mentioned, like almost 100 people went through data analytics, data science, and AI for business analytics programs. I really loved your approach of actually giving your team members, employees, time for that. Most of the companies, they're not saying, "Hey, look, there's Friday, and you can spend it on upskilling." How did this happen? What was the decision behind it? Like, how have you got a green light for that?
Yeah. So I think this is the challenge that many companies are facing. We want people to learn something, but we kind of expect that they will do that on their own time. But if they have the full schedules, if they're working overtime, how can you expect that they will do improvements and learn something new? So this is our strategy for ages now. We are not planning, for example, we're not planning manufacturing for 100% of the capacity. We dedicate some time, at least up to 20% of the time for improvements, for continuous improvement, for learning, for meetings, one-on-ones, and so on and so forth. So all the administrative tasks. That is not easy. It's really the commitment that the company should do. But when we spend couple of hours a week, maybe half a day or sometimes full day a week for learning and uh, eventually this time will be saved. And it's a cycle that it's so difficult to break because some people are saying that we don't have time to solve problems because we have too many problems. And we need to stop that. So this is where the top leadership should be really committed, should align with the strategy and say that yes, we want people to get some new skills, new competencies, and this should be part of our strategy.
Nice. And we touched upon a lot about internal upskilling. What about external talents that are you looking for them? Is it a constant look for that? Or like how is it currently happening?
Yeah.
Are you looking for new team members, for example, in Lithuanian office?
So now the hiring is really slowed down. We are not growing as much as we did during COVID when we doubled in size in just 1 year.
I think you were the most profitable company in Lithuania from the perspective.
Probably kind of still are, but yeah, it's completely different industry, and there are not too many similar companies in Lithuania. So I think the market is changing, and for some positions, we are not able to hire from outside. We need to train people from within. And yeah, as I said, now we are not growing so much, but majority of our uh, candidates to the new positions are from life sciences. But I've seen more than one great example of some scientists or manufacturing operators going to the trainings like Turing College does and really getting some new skill set, really advancing their career and not necessarily going full time to the data analytics or some automation position, but doing like I don't know, 20 or more % of their time spending on data analytics projects and still coming back to the lab and working with scientific stuff. Once again, we are not hiring so much, but really focusing on upskilling now.
I think the industry is going to a very interesting direction where it is more valuable to have a domain understanding and being more of a senior than junior. So for juniors, like now it's very hard to enter the market. So you need to have like a domain expertise, as you mentioned, like scientists, and then upskilling into data. We do see this tendency, and it's very interesting where everything will go.
Yeah, so I've been uh, developing myself as well, and I started as a scientist and biochemist by training. But over the years, I learned a lot about the continuous improvement. I did my MBA. I I got certified as a Six Sigma Black Belt, so it's a continuous journey. And I was even thinking about enrolling to Turing College just before the last promotion, but let's see, maybe next year.
Hopefully, fingers crossed. Okay, Evelina, I think we covered almost everything. But before we finish this podcast, what is your not expectation, but what you're thinking is going to happen in 5 years in your industry? Like, who will win?
I think the competitive advantage should be the speed. And in biotech, we cannot have compromises with quality because we are sometimes producing for pharma and so on. So the competitive advantage should be speed. And AI, data analytics, together with continuous improvement, really works well in advancing the research, as I mentioned, the manufacturing and so on. So those companies that will be uh, open for the new technologies, not being afraid, not treating AI as something abstract and as like a threat, but really working together. So I think that AI for us is a evolution, not a revolution. We are pretty conservative company, but just recently we started collaboration with OpenAI, and I think these are things that you cannot avoid. We talked about the ideal candidate 5 years ago and now, and the competitive advantage of speed and so on. But I think what is the most important thing is all the digital improvements, all the smart factory initiatives should be part of the strategy. We cannot, say that let's buy some shiny AI tool and everything will be okay. Far from that. It's the transformation is happening with the technology, but also with people. Because technology is as good as the people that are working with that. So once again, upskilling, the self-development, um, the to be eager to learn something new is really the game changer now.
So to summarize, speed, lifelong learning, and definitely becoming power users of latest tools, not only, as you mentioned, purchasing them and bragging that, yeah, we have them also, but not using them. So Evelina, thank you very much for this interview. Good luck, and let's see where we can go in upcoming 5 years.
Thank you, and it's really exciting to see what the future will bring. And I think we need to be flexible. We cannot be afraid of the change. The world is changing all the time, and we need to be, agile and adapt to that. So, best of luck for everybody.
Thank you for the viewers who are watching this video. If you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe and see you next time.